I got an email from a company called Hychika offering me one of their products to do a review on. So they paid for this to set, well, they PayPal'd me money, I bought this, and I'm going to show you what's inside. So it's a Hychika cordless garden pruner. So it comes with charger, battery, bar and chain oil, and the tool itself with a blade guard. And this is a protector which flips up. Battery says it's charged. Let's see. How does this go? It works. Put the bar and chain oil in it. Well, that's a little annoying with the little fiddly thing. Maybe that will stay in the cap next time. So you're going to want to get yourself a little funnel for this, because that opening is pretty darn small. Hey, surprisingly, this seems like it's glass fiber reinforced. You cut it and it's scratchy. Is the battery? So's the battery. Wow. A lot of cheaper tools use ABS plastic. This is scratchy, so it feels like it's some sort of glass fiber reinforced. Little 8-inch bar. It did come with an extra chain and a tool. Does not appear to be any place to carry the tool on the saw, which might be a problem. It'd be nice if there was a spot to carry that in case you need to loosen up the blade or whatever else. Alright, let's see if it cuts. We ended up with an extra Christmas tree because this one, when we cut it down, it was at the top of a tall tree and it fell and broke a bunch of branches, so we had to get a second one. So, it says it's for pruning, so let's see how this goes. Let's move this. So first impressions of this are actually not bad. For a no-name brand like, well, it's got a name, Hychika, but it's not one of the big names. It's pretty comfortable. This safety thing is really kind of annoying. You gotta hold it with either your index finger and squeeze with your middle finger, or do it on the other side, and then you can't get a good grip around the saw. It's not in a great spot here. I see why they have it, although I might, when I take it apart, I might take that out. I know you're not supposed to and whatever else, but because I am going to take this apart and show what the insides are like of this. So the two minor problems I've had with this Hychika saw so far. One is the bar and chain oil cap leaks. I think, let me double check when I open this. Yeah, this top here is pretty rough where they molded it together. There's some bumps and there's where the seam is. So I'm going to try to file that smooth and hopefully the cap will seal. Well, it's hard to tell if it leaks right now. Take a little bit for it to leak, but I'm going to empty the bar and chain oil out of this and then take it apart and I'll see what's inside. Well, it's hard to tell if it leaks right now. Take a little bit for it to leak, but I'm going to empty the bar and chain oil out of this and then take it apart and I'll see what's inside. So I emptied the bar and chain oil because I'm going to take this apart and I don't want it leaking everywhere. The other minor problem, I'm going to zoom in on that tooth. There. Probably going to be a little hard to see on camera, but this tooth here is not pointy at all. It's like completely blunt right from the factory. All the other ones are nice and sharp and pointy, but this one here, I mean, yeah, you couldn't cut anything with that. That is just... Let's see if I can get closer so you can... So the chain's lacking a little bit on this, but I'd be surprised if Hychika actually makes the chain for this. They're probably buying chains from somewhere else and putting it on there. So that's not really their fault, although they are probably buying one of the cheaper chains they can buy. Now I'm going to take this apart and show you what the inside looks like. I have not had this apart. So I'm about to open this. Let me know in the comments below. What do you think is going to be inside? Is it going to be any good? Is it going to be comparable to my Ryobi tools? Is it just going to be... Let's see, did I forget a screw? Screws. There we go, it's just a snug fit. Whoa, lost the trigger. Comes off. Interestingly, they had to, after this was molded, they had to grind away on the inside a little bit for clearance. I think for the oiler, they had their mold wrong, and they had to grind away a little for this, for the oil pump. Little bearings, a little gearbox. Here's the lock switch. Actually, I think I'm going to take that out because it could really use a lighter spring in here. Let's see, what else do we have in here? Let's get a big board down here for the battery control thing. Nice big fat heat sink. All potted in so you can't see a thing. Yeah, this is screwed in there. That's a bearing that sits in the housing there. Let's see. So we've got a fairly robust looking gearbox considering what this is. Metal gear, bevel gear, put on with a nylock and a bearing there. Would like to see a little more grease in this housing. There's not very much in there. So here we have the windings for the brushless motor mounted right on, and they're soldered onto these wires and heat shrunk. I would like to see a little bit more strain relief there, but that's what it is. Switch 25 amps DC, probably nothing, just feeding this brain box because it's a brushless motor, so it doesn't need to handle current. Bare minimum of grease on this gear. I'll probably put in a little extra, but if yours starts to make noise or sound a little dry, you could put in a little extra grease. Other than that, all other wire connections are soldered. Look like they're soldered and heat shrunk. Pretty nicely done as far as soldering and heat shrink goes. Other things about the casting. As far as problems go, I would like to see a bit more grease in by the gearbox. Should work, but for how long? Until you run out of grease, there's not that much extra in there. The casting, the molding where they had to grind out, and this looks like it was actually ground out after it was molded because there's these little fuzzy things. That's not all that great. They need to modify that a little bit. I'm sure they will eventually. I don't see any date stamp or time stamp on here for when this was made. When you cut it, it's all crunchy. So this is, I'm pretty sure this is glass fiber reinforced nylon. It doesn't say on it, PA6, whatever. Doesn't have a listing like glass fiber or whatever else, but it's all scratchy when you cut it, and it feels pretty stiff, and it's got that sort of different look than ABS to it. So I don't know what the percentage is or whatever else, but that's what it is. I'm going to put another dollop of grease in here and then get it put back together again. To do some testing on, I decided I'd see how many times I could cut it on a full charge. So I was able to make 57 cuts in this dried pine. It is a little bit rotten on the outside, but the middle is still fairly solid. So 57 cuts, that's pretty darn good. It's more than what I expected. I think they rate it for like 40 cuts in a 4-inch diameter thing. And these are, what are these? The hard center part is probably about 4 inches for this. I mean, the whole thing is bigger, but the outside's a little squishy. So, so this did surprisingly well. I wasn't expecting it to cut quite that much. And one thing to keep an eye on though is one battery charge outlasts the oil reservoir. So you have to keep an eye on that. It's easy to run a battery or electric saw out of oil, because usually on a gas saw the gas tank runs out just before the oil runs out, so you just top them both off and you're set to go. So, but this saw, the tank is a little bit small, so you can't quite run through an entire battery before you have to top up the tank. Not that big of a deal, because I don't think people are going to be using this cut after cut after cut. It is just slightly warm to the touch, both down here and up by the motor, but I was cutting fairly continuously and no smoke came out of it. It didn't seem to complain at all. So yeah, seems like it's a good little tool. I'm not sure how long this will last in the long run. There's a couple of things on the inside which made me question a little bit how long it was going to last. But initially, the initial performance is great, and I'll keep using it, and if something happens to it, I will definitely do an autopsy, and if not, I'll just keep using it. I'll probably do an update video in a couple months or a year or something like that, just to see how well this is working. But this seems like a pretty useful tool. We have a plug-in chainsaw that we use in our sawmill for cutting up slabs and other things, and or lopping the ends off boards if they're too long. You know, if you get an end that's waned, you want to turn a 10-footer with wane at the end into an 8-footer. Use the battery, the corded electric saw, just because it's so quick. But this thing, being cordless, should make it nice and convenient. And filing the top of the oil reservoir did make it so that it doesn't leak anymore. So that's good. So it doesn't leak oil. So is this worth about $100? Is about what you pay for it? Yeah, if you're looking for a pruning saw, I mean, this obviously is not going to be your logging, felling tree saw, but for a pruning saw, yeah, cuts a lot, charges up, it's made of good materials. The insides are a little questionable, but overall I'd say it's worth it.
How about when you watch more of my videos, you have to just hit this like button and watch more of my videos.